Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Anyone Can Create the Life That They Want, is with Rachel Fay. We talk about seeing a gap in the market, using her experience and doing something about it, a less risky way into self-employment, and creating a multi-award winning franchise from an airing cupboard.
Rachel Fay always wanted to work with children, and she qualified as a primary school teacher in 2011. While on maternity leave from teaching in 2014, she began thinking about a themed preschool class that would help children avoid being overwhelmed by attempts at mark making when starting school. After trialling classes, Rachel was delighted by their popularity and how well running them fit around family life. She began to consider franchising so that the classes could be offered around the UK and opportunities provided for a worthwhile family-friendly career. In 2019, Little Learners has got 34 franchisees and they are growing fast. Rachel is proud of how close and supportive the Little Learners community is, and they've even got their very first Australian franchisee starting imminently. Hi Rachel, thank you ever so much for coming in to speak to us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So do you want to talk to us a little bit about your journey? How did you get here?
Yeah, so I am a qualified primary teacher, specialising in early years. And when I had my little boy, Ollie, I decided that I couldn't go back to work because I just needed a little bit more of a flexible career. Actually, my whole perception of what I wanted to do in terms of work changed as soon as he was born. While I was pregnant, I thought I was going to go back to work after 3 months, pop him in daycare, everything was going to be fine. And as soon as they put him in my arms in that hospital, I was like, I'm quitting work. So I started to take Ollie to quite a lot of preschool groups, baby and toddler groups, when he was little. And we've been to music, sensory classes, dancing, everything like that. But I sort of identified a gap in the market for a sort of educational literacy-based class, and a little bit of messy play in there because messy play was getting quite popular at the time. So I remember actually, Ollie was about 2.5, 3 months old, and I was sitting in the living room just watching him sleep, thinking if there's no better time than now to do something, then I don't know what is, and I've just got to do it, you know. So I sat down and I'd started to think about creating sort of like an early writing program for under 5. And actually, when I was a teacher, I had identified that quite a lot of children were coming to school scared to write or a little bit overwhelmed when it came to writing, and they seemed to sort of start reception and then especially year 1, and they're sort of given a pencil and told, you know, let's write, and it can be very daunting for them. So I thought it's never going to change the pressures on them to write, so we need to do something before they start school, just to get them used to holding a pencil, developing motor skills, mark making. I'm not forcing them to write sentences or words. It's just getting them used to it. So I thought if we could design a sort of preschool class that children could go to before nursery and reception to get them used to using lots of different materials, learning through play, and making their mark, which is our sort of slogan, then they're not going to be as overwhelmed when they reach the age where they've got to write. So yeah, Ollie was sleeping and I just sat down on the floor and thought, right, I'm going to just try and design a programme for under 5s that's as simple as possible, where I can break it down to the most simplest of marks that make up each letter, number, shape and pattern. So I got my pencil out. Honestly, I wish I could show you the drawings that I did of these characters because they were hilarious. They're actually professionally designed now, obviously, but I looked at all of the letters, the numbers, the shapes and patterns that we know, and I broke them down into marks. So we sort of had a straight line, which was represented by a soldier, a curve that's represented by a rainbow, a circle, which is a magic pot, and then a zigzag, which is the monster. And when I looked at it, I thought, actually, this is pretty good. I should do something with this. So then I thought, well, I'll develop sort of preschool class out of it, and we'll give it a go and see how it goes. So Ollie must have been about 3 months, and I decided to spend, I think, 1 full month's maternity pay on some stock. I thought I'll put on a couple of free sessions, and I'll just invite the parents of the local area in, and just get their feedback really, and see if the kids enjoy it and if they get something out of it, and if it's something that I could develop and put more classes on. So I did. I put the word out in my local area, and I had far too many people turn up for the session. But you live and you learn. Must have been about 35 or 40 parents and children at this session, yeah. But actually, the feedback that I got back was really, really good. And I think the only tiny little bit of constructive criticism I got was something like there wasn't enough Play-Doh tools out. I was absolutely fine with that. So, yeah, I sort of analysed that feedback and thought, right, while I'm still on maternity leave, could I put on some more classes in other parts of the Northeast and sort of start building up this business slowly whilst I'm off work and before I have to return. So I did. So I put my first term on sale, and it sold out immediately with the parents that had came to the free session. And then I started another class in South Shields and one in Newcastle as well, all of which sold out. I started doing events or themed events at Easter and Christmas and Halloween, and we do a big event in the summer called Little Learners in the Park, which is on the grass, and we have paddling pools and water guns, and it's great fun.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
This one wants an invite.
Yeah, the parents have.
I don't have any children.
You can steal one.
So if there's anyone out there listening want to let me borrow their children?
Yeah, well,
You've got godchildren, haven't you?
I could bring them along.
yeah,
They'd like
it's
it.
funny you say that, because at April Fool's Day last year, I put on that exciting news in the morning. Due to popular demand, we're going to be putting on big Little Learners classes for grown-ups, and we're going to have alcohol and messy play dates, and actually everybody fell for it. when I said it was an April Fool, everyone was bitterly disappointed, and I was like, maybe there's a market here.
No, you trademarked that one already.
No, but I will now.
You've got a couple of weeks before this one goes out, so you've got plenty of time to sort that one out.
So we do events like that in the park, and I think it was a cornerstone of the business when I did put on the Little Learners in the Park event, because I think I sold about 100 tickets in 12 minutes. And it was in Sutwell Park, the local park, and it was just something a little bit different in the summer. So it was educational, the mark making, the learning through play, but it's outdoors as well. So once I'd got to that stage, I had started attracting a bit of attention on the Facebook page from people that lived other places in the UK. So I would get messages from somebody with a child in Manchester saying, have you got a class near me? And I was thinking, how have you heard of me in the Northeast? And what they said is they'd assumed that I was a franchise, which made me think, oh, great, I've obviously got the brand and, worked out well. And there's obviously that demand there to grow. So I started to look into ways that I could expand the business and put on more classes throughout the UK, but I didn't quite know how to do that. I don't know, do I hire staff? Like, how can I spread myself sort of all over the UK? So I started looking into it, and had a look into franchising, and I knew that there was a couple of franchisors in the Northeast who I reached out to, asked for some advice, and I thought, actually, I think this is a really good idea, not only to spread the early writing programme around, you know, it's going to benefit children in the long run, but also to create an opportunity for other people that were in my position. So, you know, they might be on maternity leave from work, they don't want to go back, they want a more flexible job, and they could do the same. And it just made sense. And a lot of my friends who were teachers were saying, oh, you know, this is such a good idea, I would like to do something like this. So it seemed a no-brainer to sort of franchise it. So it was a big risk, I suppose, to leave a secure teaching job and go self-employed completely. But I did it. And it hasn't always been plain sailing and easy. Like you know, it's not when you run your own business. And actually, the day that I handed in my notice, I had discussed it with my partner, and he said, you know, let's just go for it. You know, if you know, it's going to make you more happy, you know, less stressed, and you're going to get to spend more time with Oliver. We'll just adapt to our lifestyle in order for you to do this. Because I was the main wage earner at the time, being a teacher. So it was good that I had his support. So I was sort of really excited. I'd went in, I'd handed me notice, and the day that I came home, he was actually made redundant on the spot the same day. So we found ourselves both jobless, effectively, with a 6-month-old, or however old he was.
Oh, God.
Baby. So, but I think that just sort of fueled something inside me to just think, right, this has got to work now. Got to make it work. And I'd always believed in it, but it just made us believe in it more and made me think, yeah, this is going to be how it is. So I always sort of had a vision in mind. So I started franchising about 9 months after I launched Little Learners myself.
Wow.
And we had a franchisee in Durham come on board, and it started to spread sort of naturally. And 3.5 years on, we have now 35 franchisees across the UK.
Wow.
And we're just looking to go to Australia. We're just about to sign our first Australian franchisee as well. Yeah, so it's fantastic, and it's went exactly how I've planned, but it's not always easy. It's a tough old world being self-employed. But the fact that I created that flexibility for myself, and I could, you know, spend time with Ollie when I wanted to. That's, you know, something that I could never have had if I was still working and commuting to the school that I was at. So that's basically where we're at now.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It really is, because it's you've wanted to create your own lifestyle effectively that allows you to make an income, but you're now helping others to do the same, which I think that's fantastic. I mean, we often talk about that, or we hear about so many people unhappy in their careers, in their jobs. You're limited with a certain, you know, it's 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, 8.
Or teacher 24/7. Yeah.
And I mean, I know a lot from the education background. My parents were both in that, and it's creeped from, as my mum always used to say, when I started out teaching, I'd get my marking done. Your dad would pick me up about 5 o'clock, and we'd go home for a weekend.
Yeah.
But now it's, you know, 2-3 hours a night, marking, planning, work on the weekends, and it's a very difficult profession.
And even the school holidays, you know, that people think that you're getting all that time off, and you don't. You've got a lot of planning, assessment, and I absolutely loved being a teacher. I did, and the amount of teachers you'll speak to who have left the profession will still tell you they loved being a teacher and they loved working with children, but it's about giving up that part of your life. It's a teacher lifestyle where you've got to, fully commit. And I just wasn't willing to do that when Ollie was born. I just thought, you're my priority until you start school yourself. And I've never looked back. But as I say, I've got so many teacher friends, and it's a shame that the teaching profession's sort of going that way. Yeah. Because I think we do need to look after our teachers as well.
No, definitely.
But yeah, it's I think it's something that my potential franchisees and current franchisees can relate to. So I think that's another reason that they come on board and join the team, because I was in, like you say, their position, and they've seen what I've done and how I've grown the business. So they can relate a lot to that and take the leap themselves. And it's really not easy going from being employed to self-employed. Like, it's a huge step, and I think sometimes people think that self-employment is easy. It's flexible, and I mean, and I say it is flexible. What I struggle with sometimes is making it flexible for myself.
Yeah.
So I know it is flexible. I can give myself that odd day, but I don't, because I get a bit of a workaholic.
It's that founders syndrome stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, you just can't switch off. But I can if I want, so it's nice knowing that you can. But it's stepping away from a regular income, and not knowing what's going to happen from day to day is a totally different world. But it's about what sort of lifestyle you want, I suppose, to create for yourself. And if you're unhappy, then you've got to do something about it. Really,
Definitely.
What's great, though, I think, with the franchise is if you're in a position where you've got exactly those feelings, I've just had a child, I'm not enjoying the job anymore, I think a franchise, it lays out a roadmap, a structure for someone to say, I don't have to figure out myself. Rachel's gone through this. She's learned, made mistakes, succeeded in some bits, learned about what's best practice. So you're giving it's
like a business in the box sort of thing. Yeah, you trialed and tested. Yeah.
And I think it gives you. I'd have more confidence to say, let's say I was going to set up a Little Learners franchise next week.
Yeah,
it's not something I really know about, but I'd feel right. I've got a structure. I know the direction. I know what needs to be done, and that I think will help someone take the step, because the bridge is already there. In some ways, it's just more the passion and the drive and the
exactly
executing it, isn't it?
It is a good step in the direction of owning a business, because you're not starting from scratch, as you say, and having to build up. And the model's there. It's a successful model. We're an award-winning company as well, so you know that you're coming on board with a company that knows their stuff, really, and parents love them. But like you say, it does still take a bit of drive and determination and passion as well, because like anything, you get out what you put in, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you've got that basis then, if you're thinking about running your own business, but the thing that's putting you off is the whole setup and starting from scratch, then I think franchise is definitely something to look into. But yeah.
It's good.
So one of my favourite stories about you, Rachel, is that you've only recently moved what your office was. Could you describe for our listeners what, the years of you working from? What that looked like?
I knew that you were going to think it. Do you know, it's gonna sound like an extract from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But, so we lived... me and my partner bought our first sort of apartment before Ollie was born. Lovely little apartment, quite small, also sitting room, living room and dining room in one. So when I started the business and I needed sort of a space, you find this so
That's
hilarious.
a mint.
I had like a small, well, very small airing cupboard, basically, with my washer and my dryer in there, and a bench on the top. And so I set up my office on top of the bench. So I had laptop, printer, all my paperwork, and just used to open the cupboard doors, pop my chair in front of the washer, and do my work. How did we even come about me admitting this?
I don't know.
Was it? I think somebody must have said in a workshop something like, "Oh, I've got to move out of this small office that I'm in. I can't move." And I was thinking,
I worked in a cupboard.
Yeah, literally worked in a cupboard.
I think it's because you just recently moved as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So we moved into a house, and we've got a lot of more room now, but it was very funny working out of a cupboard sometimes, and having sort of a 2-3-year-old running around driving cars at my face, and in the middle of important phone calls, and I've got to wipe a bum at the same time, and it's literally life of a mumpreneur. So
it's brilliant.
Yeah, he actually 2 days ago, when one of my franchisees was delivering like a discovery session for potential franchisees in Leeds, and it got to the point where she was going to FaceTime me, and I was going to do a Q&A with the director of Little Learners. And I had Ollie, it was half term, and I'd said to Ollie, in a minute, Mummy's going to go on and have a really important video call, so just go on your iPad and just for a minute, and then I'll be off. And I thought, the worst he's going to say is like, Mum, I need a drink, or I need... And it was deadly quiet, and it was fine, and I was doing it. Halfway through, he said, Mum, and I went, oh, I'm really sorry. What? And he said, that's fine. My sock was floppy, but now it's fine. And I was like, thanks for that. So I had to announce it to all these franchisees. No worries, his floppy sock is fixed.
Oh, bless you.
But again, I suppose to them it makes it quite relatable that I'm still looking after an under 5 and running a business, and it really, really isn't easy. But I love every minute of it. But he's a good little advocate for it as well.
No, it's brilliant. We had something very similar recently. My mum was very poorly and couldn't look after Oliver. We have Olivers in common as well, don't we? Yeah. I had a LinkedIn local event, and I thought, what's the worst that can happen? Brought him with me. It was hilariously one that I was actually delivering some stuff at. And so I stood in front of a room full of 40 people with my 9-year-old literally clinging on like one of those koalas from Australia, those little toys you can get. He was just like stood next to me, like clinging on. I was just like, well, we'll just pretend that this isn't happening. It's just the joys, isn't it? It's just how to get on with it.
It is. It's just what comes with it. And I mean, he's in nursery now, which he absolutely loves each day, but I mean, it was even harder when he was at home every day and sort of trying to juggle everything around him and manage, 20 franchisees if I had at the time, and grow the business. But I would do it again because it meant that I just could stop sometimes and just say, right, let's go to the park in the middle of the day, or just anything that I wanted to do, I could just make time for him. And I would do that again in a snapshot. So
no, it's great. Just that kind of flexibility that you have to create yourself.
Yeah. It just wouldn't have. Even if I'd went part-time as a teacher, you're never sort of although you're working part-time hours.
You get paid part-time. No.
Get paid part-time.
Yeah. So it's been a whirlwind of a journey, but I've loved every minute of it. And like I say, it's not always easy. I think I've got some all of my friends and family are really supportive of what I do, which is always a massive help. So every time I see my friends now and again, they'll tell us how proud they are of us, and it's really nice. And my family are very involved with the business. But then there's the flip side of those people you sometimes meet, and they'll say things like, oh, well, you're just so lucky that you can do that. And it's like, it's not luck. It's not. I'm not lucky. I created this myself, and it's blooming hard work is what it is. Yeah. Or there's the other type of person that'll say, oh, it's great what you do. I think it's amazing. I could never do that. You know, I could never do that, and we could never afford to do that. And it's like, I don't know, it's a really difficult one to sort of
unpick.
Yeah. Because I think anybody is, I mean, business isn't for everyone, but I think anyone can create the life that they want to do, that they want, ideally.
Yeah.
And it's not down to luck.
No.
I'm not lucky.
Did you have, in the early stages, obviously everyone's very supportive, but I think we've all experienced where you're crossing that threshold to do something new. When you're announcing to everybody, I've got this great idea, here's the concept, I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah.
Was everybody sort of like your cheerleader, like everyone's high-fiving, or did you have any kind of naysayers that would throw a bit of doubt?
Yeah, I had a fair few people that sort of, yeah, I mean, I think it was quite a crazy concept to some people that you would just sort of stop your job or your regular income and just like you say, roll with just an idea that you have. And I think some people find it really hard to get their head around the risk that you're taking, and all they say is, how do you know it's going to work, or what if this happens, or and I suppose it's part of sort of having a positive mindset and trying to drown all that noise out. But yeah, I did have a fair few, and some people that were quite close to me actually saying things like, oh, well, you all those years in uni that you studied to be a teacher and all that hard work, and now for what? And it's like, well, your life takes different directions, and for me, I just love proving people wrong. Mm-hmm. We're just talking about it before, weren't we, about teachers at school, and I was told one time, you'll never be a teacher, and little things like that. Just that it was probably deliberate. He probably knew what he was doing. Actually, let's hope it was that. But it just adds a bit of fuel to the fire, and it just makes you think, well, I'm going to definitely do it now.
Yeah,
I'm going to post you my graduation picture.
Did you?
My teacher certificate? No, I wish I had.
Can we track him down? Do it now.
Yeah, let's. But yeah, there's always that. It's such a good feeling when you just like prove them wrong. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's you've sort of just got to learn to drown that sort of negativity out. But I think it's like in anything in life, isn't it? You always have somebody challenging, and people that, some people just like to be in their comfort zone. I think they'll always probably, if they're happy, just living in their comfort zone and in their regular job or whatever, because that, I think sometimes that's seen as the norm as well. And I think back when I was at school, everybody was sort of pushed to go to university, to find something that they wanted to study, go to university and then get a career, or it was leave at 16 after your GCSEs and get a job. So business and being self-employed was never introduced to us as a child, and it wasn't really an option. And actually, I remember when I was 17, 18, when I was doing my choices at for university, I'd always wanted to be a primary teacher. From being in primary school myself, I always said, I'm going to be a teacher, I took, at the time you had to take A-levels to get into a teaching degree. It was quite competitive. You couldn't sort of go and do, I didn't know that you could go and do sort of a childcare course and then get into university. I was told at school, get these 4 good A-levels and you'll get in. So I was sort of doing A-levels that I just wasn't interested in. One being psychology, which I was atrocious at, philosophy and just art and I was thinking, every day I was going in and I was thinking, I want to be a teacher. Like, it was so frustrating. And I ended up not getting the grades that, you know, really would have got me on the course. So I had the option of applying for teaching and just trying my best in the interview and or looking at something else. So I had a real period in my life where I was thinking, oh, I need to just find anything to get me into university, because that's what you do. You go to university. And then, so I was looking at things like, I actually applied for a radiotherapy course in Sheffield. Like, radio, I've never had interest in this, okay? But they were looking for people to do it. And I thought, you know, with my A-levels, I'll get on this. And it just shows that it's just, I think if I'd known that you could make a success of yourself, you know, creating something yourself or giving it a go, it might have been a different story, and I might have been way ahead in my business journey than I am now, really. But I remember actually my partner, has been with him a long time since I was young, and I think I was about 17 or 18, and he emailed me, I think it was MSN or something back then. Pinged me across like an email, and it just had like, you know, don't worry if you don't know what you're going to do at this stage in your life, because these people below didn't know what they were doing until they were sort of 40, and it was all people that all entrepreneurs really that had created their own business, you know, sort of Microsoft and everything that later in life. And when I look back now, it's I think, oh, now I've got my own business, but I wish back then it was more of a thing to, and I think it would be good if we could make kids at that age aware of business and self-employment as well, that it is an option, and it's not just for people that, you know, can afford it or, you know, are famous. And I think that, because I think sometimes, especially with Instagram and all these lifestyle businesses as well, kids are seeing a lot.
Like, just get paid to drink this beer.
Yeah. And you're always like, I'm on my laptop with all my hair and makeup done, with my phone in my hand.
And a lovely plant in the corner.
Yeah, nice little plant, and like my pink pen, and I'm like, really, if you took a picture of me right now in my airing cupboard,
in my pajamas,
in my dressing gown,
I think it gives a better real kind of more realistic picture of what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think they would be shooting for that if they really saw what it was like. But I think we need to get that across more. I think definitely.
I think there's with the sort of Gatsby the standards now that all secondary schools have to sign up for. Right. There's a lot more in terms of that career provision. So, you know, schools are having actually to expose children to businesses and entrepreneurship and all that stuff, because I think by the year, there's some research last year, by the year 2027, over half of Western workers are going to be freelancers. So we'll have their own businesses. Yeah. So we're moving towards that at such a rapid pace that, you know, the kids in schools now, you know, 50% of them are going to be self-employed when they grow up. So so there's loads of initiatives. There's a lovely charity called the Pie Project in Newcastle that's doing sort of introducing the concept of businesses to primary school teachers, and in primary school having projects and stuff. So it's all really exciting, and there's lots of good stuff happening in the space where when we were at school, there's nothing at all.
No, I think we had careers advisor for a while, that then they took it away, and then it was always sort of university or job, and there was no in between, and that was the norm. So I think that's great.
No, it's crackers. What was your experience of careers advice at school?
Well, I talked about that one on a podcast with Chris, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you fill in all these questions and it's like, well, I wasn't expecting that. I think my top one was merchant Navy deck officer.
Yeah.
And
the Navy.
Physical training instructor in the army or something. And I thought, I don't know, that sounds quite like me, but same experience really. it's the traditional path of you've got to do these exams, you've then got to do your A levels, then you go to university. And I think back now, actually, I'm not sure if I had to go back. I think the idea of more apprenticeships and theory I often found was a bit intangible for me. So I think something that involves something more practical, where you're actually putting to good use. Yeah. So you're not just learning something hypothetical about strategy. You're actually putting into place in a company. Yeah. And I think we need more of that in schools. You're right, because it's an acceptable career choice. You're not a weirdo. You're not some crazy kid sat in his bedroom coding. But these are the people we need, actually, especially as 2019 is a year of uncertainty around Brexit. You know, we need a lot more people to say, do you know what, I don't care. I'm going to set up a business and I'm going to, grow the region, grow the economy.
Think of all the ideas that all of these children could actually have, and they're just not. They don't have the confidence at the platform to start developing them as a business. It's crazy how many ideas are out there, and there's a lot of pressure at that stage, at A-level stage, at GCSE stage, and not a lot of time for them to make up their mind. It's like, right, this is what you've got to do now. Decide, decide right now, and it's difficult. We need to think of a different way.
I think you're right, and in fact, I know you're right. Yeah. With my opinion, unless you're doing a career which is very specific, I'm going to be a doctor, a nurse, a vet, a lawyer, and they say you have to have a science, you need to have maths. Fair enough, crack on with that. I reckon that I always say to people, when you get out of school and you get out of university, no one gives a monkeys about, what did you do at GCSE? Oh, I noticed you got such and such a grade in maths. Nobody cares. I almost describe it as you're proving a certain level of intelligence to take you to the next step. Who cares if you did chemistry or biology or French or geography or whatever? And I think that's the problem, really. It needs a rethink.
Exactly. And like I said before, when I was doing these A-levels that I was not interested in, just to get on a primary teaching course, and actually I knew that I would be more, passionate and inclined to work towards something that I wanted to do. And I actually came out with the 2-1. I think it was only a few marks off a first degree. Yeah, I got, my A-levels told a different story, but it just shows that, that pressure, something needs to be done about it. Yeah, you're totally right. And actually, when I look back on my younger years as a child, I sort of can pick up on little sort of business ownery, entrepreneur things that I used to do. I used to be the arranger of school street productions in my local area, where we used to put on grease and dances and circuses and a little bit of grass, and I used to organise everyone, and we made a film one time, and I was very in the zone in terms of things like that, and I enjoyed it. And if only I'd picked up that was like a strength of mine to go forward with. But yeah, I mean, I even a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit here, decided I had a brilliant idea for the show that we were going to put on. I'll go around with a bucket to all the doors and sell tickets. So I'm shaking this bucket, collecting in everyone's money on the street for their tickets, until my mum finds out and literally marches me all the way back round those doors to give them back the money. But say I was thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Excellent. Okay, so I think our last question, I think we probably answered this one, is if you could go back to 18-year-old you, what piece of advice would you give her?
I think just not to worry as much. And I think it's difficult because I think, like with what we've just discussed, the pressures are all around 18-year-olds, so it's hard to get away from that, But I would, if I could have just relaxed a little bit and told myself that it would work out anyway. I think when you're told at that age, oh, it'll be fine, you just it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Yes.
But I think just to relax, not worry, and just go with the flow of just identifying sort of where my strengths were and what I wanted to do, and probably still would have ended up in teaching until I actually got into the teaching job, and then probably would have took the same turn again. But I think that's what I would have said to myself.
That's good. I mean, so if anyone is sat listening, maybe it's the weekend, you don't have to be a teacher, maybe you're thinking, Monday morning, cannot be doing with this. I like the sound of what Rachel's talking about. Yeah. I like children, I've got my own children, I'd like to create my own lifestyle. Whether you're in the UK, Australia, or what about Tasmania? We know we've got a listener in Tasmania at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are, but I'm going to say hello, give you a shout out, because you are our southernmost listener on the planet. Yeah. Imagine that. So anyway, I digress. So if you're interested in becoming part of a franchise, getting involved, maybe you've got kids, you want to bring them along, what is the best way to find out more?
Yeah, so just go on our website, so littlelearnersuk.com. Click on join our franchise, and all the information's there. You can request a franchise prospectus, have a little read of that, and then if you've got any questions about it, then you can just get in touch with us. We're on, we're all over the place: social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email, phone calls. So just get in touch with any questions. I'm always happy to help, and I'm always happy to speak to other people about them potentially franchising their business as well, and helping them, paying that forward a little bit. But if anybody knows anybody or has any friends and family in Australia, please spread the word, because it's like we're starting all over again in another country, really. But we've got our first franchisee signing soon in Melbourne, so hopefully that'll start the spark off a little bit. But just get in touch, or get in touch with any of my franchisees as well, because they're always happy to help as well. You're talking yourself into this now, aren't you?
Yeah, no, look at his face.
Well, I wanted to bring do some messy play here, but Michelle was like,
no.
The moment Michelle was like, no, we've got white table here, James. No,
white table, all this really expensive equipment. No.
I think we should also give a shout out to your partner for supporting you on this journey, because it's so easy for someone to drag you down and say, oh, you're leaving a steady job, why would you do that? That's crazy, you can't do that. So I think we should. Sadly we don't have any recordings yet where I can give a round of applause, but maybe we can edit something in at the end. But what is your partner's name?
Andy.
Yeah. You are a legend, sir. So all you other partners out there, support your spouses, wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, whoever they are. Yeah. That support can make a big difference.
Massive difference, So,
thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And get in touch, and we look forward to seeing what happens with Australia. That's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode, when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.